We've seen this plane a lot. We've seen Donald Trump get on the plane and disembark from this plane as it flew across the United States, taking him from rally to rally to rally with cheering crowds all across this country. But today it is on a special mission. Today it will take him to meet with the President of the United States, a person that he has been at odds with over the course of the last many years. But now they will be part of a very special and very elite club. Presidents of the United States, and in Donald Trump's case, the future president of the United States. So will they put the rancor aside? Will they discuss the meaning and enormity of the task that lies ahead for the next president of the United States? We expect that they will, because that's what we have seen in the past. Joining me now, Doug Schoen, advisor to former President Bill Clinton, and Monica Crowley, online opinion editor for the Washington Times. Both are Fox News contributors. Welcome to both of you. Monica, let me start with you. You've written positively about the future of a Trump campaign from the very beginning in the face of a lot of opposition, and always believed that this was something that would be a reality, and you were right.
Thank you. This is the most astonishing political story of our lifetimes, maybe ever in the history of the Republic. And what we're about to see unfold today with the outgoing president, a Democrat, Barack Obama, inviting the incoming president, a Republican, but not just any Republican, somebody who has never done this before, who came out of nowhere as the ultimate outsider, inviting him to the White House to talk about the transition and to make sure that that peaceful transition of power goes smoothly. I expect today to be gracious on both sides. I expect that both will be polite. I expect the meeting to be productive. But there's something to keep in mind going forward. There's all of this talk about who is going to be leading the Democratic Party going forward once President Obama leaves, talk about Chuck Schumer as the Senate Minority Leader and so on. I think Barack Obama is going to be leading the Democratic Party forward. Remember that when he leaves office, that doesn't mean he's leaving Washington. He will be staying in Washington. And despite all of the graciousness that we will see today and all of the professionalism, I believe Barack Obama will be down the street from President Trump when he takes office, breathing down his neck. And every time the new president moves to reverse something President Obama has done, Obamacare, executive orders, make no mistake that President Obama will not, I don't expect him to obey the traditional etiquette of allowing your successor to go about his business. I think President Obama will be very vocal indeed.
It's a fascinating point that you bring up, and it makes me think, Doug, about the polls.
Yeah.
Because you think about the fact that this is a president who has a 51, 52, 53% approval rating. And now, you know, given how off all of the polls were, I question that number as well, frankly. And you wonder what President Obama, how he feels about his legacy, given what happened on Tuesday night.
Well, let me try to explain as a professional pollster the best I can. The 51, 52% that you cite is much more a sense of good feeling than it is of endorsement of policy, because as we've discussed before, and certainly Monica has articulated, there was widespread disagreement with the policies of the Obama administration, particularly Obamacare. I will say I disagree with Monica, because I don't think that, particularly in the beginning, President Obama will lead the opposition. I think he will observe the etiquette. He should observe the etiquette. And I hope, for the benefit of the country, the good faith and good humor that we've seen in the last 2 days since the results were called continues. I think it explains the market upturn in part, but it also
is up 138 points right now. As we watch this, I thought they were hosing down the. Maybe there was something wrong, but there isn't. I think they were making it nice and shiny for its arrival in Washington. So that's exactly what you just saw happening there, if you questioned that at home. I also think, Doug, and tell me if I'm wrong, that the 53% approval number for Barack Obama was in part a reflection of the nastiness of the campaign. That people were looking at these two and watching them sling mud at each other, and he looked, you know, he looked better in comparison. Was that an element of that number?
I think you're absolutely right. And again, to the issue you raised about how he will act going forward, if he gets into a fight with the president-elect or the new president once he's sworn in, it will reflect badly on him and his legacy. And I believe Donald Trump will move on to lead America in a new direction, not relitigate the past.
And here's the other thing, Monica, you know, with regard to the role that President Obama would play in the future. He has not been particularly thrilled about digging into politics on Capitol Hill throughout the course of his whole presidency. So, you know, that's a workhorse option that remains to be seen whether or not he wants to partake in.
President Obama, you're talking about. Yeah, no, he just didn't care that much because, frankly, he needed the Congress when he had supermajorities in his first 2 years to do what he wanted to do. The massive stimulus bill, Obamacare, getting these massive agenda items through that have proven to be extremely unpopular, which is why you saw on Tuesday night a wholesale rejection and repudiation of President Obama and his policies. You know, there's always this sort of afterglow when a president is getting close to leaving office, and that, I think, is what's reflected in these poll numbers prior to leaving. But that's separate and distinct from his policies. I think people have a good feeling about the first black president. I think they're very proud of that. But when it comes down to the brass tacks of what he actually did over the last 8 years, what we saw on Tuesday was a complete desire for a reversal of those policies, from Obamacare to the Iran deal to the out-of-control government spending. Donald Trump has promised to reverse those things. And now that he has control of the Congress in both houses, what you will see in his first 2 years, maybe his first 4 years, is a mirror image of what Obama did in his first 2 years, only in reverse.
I'll ask you one Jim Comey question before we wrap this up,
Sure.
Doug. Because, you know, in going through the numbers and looking at what people said on Tuesday night, and we all argued about the back and forth that happened over the last month, but it made me think that really the most important thing Jim Comey did happened on July 2nd.
Yes.
That what he said to people sunk in a way that stayed with them,
Yes,
about what they didn't like,
Right.
about what they saw going on in Clinton world.
I think that's right. And what happened 10 days or so before the election reinforced that. And even the so-called clearing of Secretary Clinton, I don't think really fundamentally changed it. But one other thing, we have to heal this nation. And I think if Jim Comey, the FBI, and most of all President Trump put the investigations aside to heal the nation, we'll all, as Americans, come out better.
I'm hearing, by the way, that people in the FBI are very happy, that they feel that the heavy thumb of the DOJ is off them and that they can do their work. We'll see.
And there is the rule of law in this country. So the political calculation, as Doug points out, is critical. But I think what's equally critical is that the law be applied evenly to everybody, including Mrs. Clinton.
Yeah. It's known as prosecutorial discretion.
Thank you, Doug. Thank you, Monica.
Roger, that was, just stay on this picture for a moment. That was an extraordinary moment there. A lot of folks in Twitter land are telling us that's how they salute someone on board a plane, with the crossing of the water guns. And when the camera went wider, you could see a number of people in the lawn to the right, and they were doing exactly that with their cars lined up at the airport at LaGuardia. So,
remarkable.
One thing is for sure, we know the Republican Party is changing before our eyes, but in what ways and how will they stay permanent? RNC Chair Reince Priebus, who got a big shout out from the President-elect early Wednesday morning, will join us live for that top of the hour. Also, he promised to rebuild the military, so then where does Mr. Trump begin?
We're also going to rebuild our depleted military. These are the greatest people on earth, but our military is depleted.